Tonight we'll be continuing our investigation of the gateless barrier, the Wumenguan, case 7, Wash Your Bowl. A monk said to Zhao Zhu, "I have just entered this monastery. Master, please teach me." Zhao Zhu asked, "Have you already finished your breakfast?" The monk replied, "Yes, I have." Zhao Zhu said, "Wash your bowl." The monk was awakened. Wumen says, when Zhao Zhu opens his mouth, he exposes his gallbladder and displays his heart and liver. If this monk had been unable to hear clearly, he would have mistaken a bell for a bedpan. Wumen's verse says, "The very intention to master clearly, on the contrary, delays realization. Since ancient times it has been known that light is fire. The rice has long been cooked." It's traditional in Zen monasteries that often in training periods there would be 2 talks a day given by the teacher. Usually the morning talk is a lot more formal, a lot more chanting, a lot longer. It's also a little bit more linear, I guess one could say. And the evening talk is a little bit more demonstrative, I guess one could say. And if you look in the record of Linji, for example, there are 2 completely different sections for both of these kinds of talks. If you look at Dogen's work, there is the Shobo Genzo, which everybody knows about. And there's another text that deals with the talks that Dogen gave in evenings. And they're usually very short. And many of Dogen's are really dense and kind of cryptic. You sometimes don't have any idea what he's talking about. So we have this intensive week together, and it's just a few of us here, and we're all practicing together, supporting one another. Everybody has responsibilities, everybody has weight. So for me it just seems really, overkill or something to get into the whole big chanting mess before a talk in the evening. I'd rather save the time for interview if people want to have interview time. Case 7, I think, is a really wonderful case to be looking at this point in our practice together. A monk said to Zhao Zhu, "I have just entered this monastery. Master, please teach me." Zhao Zhu is a legendary Zen teacher. Legendary in the sense that he is, of all of the Zen masters, I think he is probably the most renowned. He appears more than anybody in the Wumenguan, in the Gateless Barrier, as well as in the Blue Cliff Record. And when you think of the number of Zen masters there were to choose from when selecting the 49 cases of the Gateless Barrier or the 100 cases of the Blue Cliff Record, that Zaozu, or Joshu as he's known in Japanese, would show up, I think it's like 7 times in the Gateless Barrier and 14 or more times in the Blue Cliff record. It gives you some indication of how he was perceived and appreciated by his contemporaries and by students of Zen who came along later. Really the defining characteristic of Zhaozu was his profound depth and maturity. Many Zen teachers were really much more wordy, much more elaborate, much more dramatic, much more fancy, much more a lot of things than Zhaozu. But this case is a wonderful example of him exposing this matter fully in the most simple, graceful, elegant way. A monk said to Zhaozu, "I have just entered this monastery. Master, please teach me." This is, it's said that this is a new monk coming into the monastery. And people come in different ways to engage in Zen practice. And particularly in Zhaozu's day, people came to Zen monasteries for all kinds of reasons. Everything from there wasn't enough food at home, so the parents sent the kid to the monastery. Or maybe they were trying to avoid being stuck in the military or some other kind of career that they didn't want to do, or maybe some other kind of marriage that they didn't want to be involved in. Sometimes people went because they wanted an education, and the Buddhist monasteries were more available than secular schools. But occasionally, people came to Zen monasteries because they actually wanted to practice Zen, because they wanted to investigate this way, the Tao, the way. So this particular monk sounds like such a one. And if you can imagine coming to the monastery of a renowned teacher, at this point, Zhaozu probably had many, many, many students in a big temple. And there are all kinds of forms and processes and ways that you would go about having interview, asking questions. And the way that this case sounds is almost in a classical sort of Chinese ambush style, where the student just had an opportunity arise where the teacher was sort of passing through, and the student sort of nabs him, buttonholes him, says, and asks a question. And in Zen practice, when we make an approach like this, particularly in this circumstance where you've entered into Zhaozu's monastery, you haven't spoken to him, and you sort of cross the room to ask a question. This is actually kind of dangerous territory. Even questions like, who are you? Where did you come from? These are completely loaded in the Zen practice. But I have to say that I think that this monk's approach is wonderful in a lot of ways. I feel about it like it's a really open, honest, sincere, vulnerable. It seems to me that this monk has entered this monastery with the greatest of intentions, truly wanting to know the way. And he asks Zhaozu, this renowned Zen teacher, he's heard about him all over the country, and he thinks, oh, finally I have this moment, I'm not going to blow it, which I think is quite admirable. And so he asks him, he says, I have just entered this monastery. Master, please teach me. This is as a teacher, to flip it around the other way, this is a very powerful opening statement, because it's like somebody unfurling a carpet in front of you and not knowing the person who's unfurling the carpet, not having any relationship with that person, and someone bows so low or opens themselves up so readily. Oh, I'm totally new to Zen. Please teach me. What do you say? How do you respond to that? This isn't just a teacher question. I think that each of you, at some point in your lives, as you go out of this place, is going to have somebody approach you and say, oh, Zen, oh, that sounds really interesting. What is Zen all about? Tell me something about Zen. It's a big invitation. It's almost too big. So the question becomes, how do you respond? There's lots of ways that we can respond with great cosmological explanations or shouts or smacking them. All kinds of ways. We can say, oh, it's a school of Buddhism that originated in blah 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 blah. Go on and on and on. But one of the things that this week of practice, this intensive week of practice, really helps us to see is that our Zen practice is just the simple unfolding of the activity of this cosmos, moment after moment. All of the sutras and all of the cosmology and all of the beautiful images and words and stories all point to this practice of simply awakening to the unfolding cosmos as it unfolds within us, before us, as the content of each moment of our lives. Zhaozu asked, have you already finished your breakfast? This is a very simple question. And it's easy to think that maybe Zhaozu is avoiding the request. But he's actually volleying. It's like he's been served a ball with this, master, please teach me. And so he sends out a volley himself, just to see where this monk is at. How does he respond? Have you already finished your breakfast? It's just you can understand it as a practical question. Before we get into our Dharma practice, have you had something to eat? Before we get into this combat, Have you filled your belly? Now the monk could have taken this question any direction. Oh, have I finished my breakfast? Have I had my first meal? Oh, this could be philosophically meaning like, have I really started my way? Have I really started my practice in the way? What should I say? How should I respond? But the monk doesn't spin like that. The monk doesn't hesitate. The monk hears this question at face value and simply replies, yes, I have. Zhaozu said, wash your bowl. The monk was awakened. This last line, the monk was awakened, says a lot about this monk's character. Maybe he was new to the monastery, but he was primed through life or through practice or through experience. The tone and the almost audacity of his question to just walk up to Zhaozu and pose this question, teach me, I'm ready, give it to me, it indicates an openness and a fearlessness and a humility we have many aspects of our Zen practice. All of them, the formal aspects of practice, are very simple. Those formal aspects of practice are there to help us move through the day smoothly, harmoniously together. They aren't always designed to be easy, or to be the most efficient, or to be the most simple way of doing things. The practice that we are engaged in is constructed in such a way as to encourage us to just be in our practice when we're doing it. Not to take shortcuts, not to make things easy for ourselves so that we can just go about our business without thinking about it. For priests, we have these big, long sleeves. So when we're cooking or walking around or doing all kinds of things, those sleeves are always bumping into things. The robes are always bumping into things. And it would be a lot easier if we could just, put some rubber bands around our sleeves and take about 24 inches of fabric out and just have a little skin-tight jumpsuit so that we don't whack into our bowls or get them hooked on doorknobs or all those kinds of things. But we haven't done that because our practice isn't just about having things go off conveniently, but about turning into the challenge of being present in our lives. We are intimately connected. I wonder if you understand what it means when I say this. We are intimately connected. When I say this, I think that it's very easy for us to understand that there are two things that have a very special relationship. They are intimate with one another. But when I talk about intimacy, I'm talking about something that goes beyond this subject and object close relationship. That these things that we take as being two are not two. Intimately related means that they're unified. And at their source, they're one. Each of us, as we go through our lives, it's very easy for us to isolate ourselves from our environment, to isolate our actions from the impacts or the effects of those actions. Zen practice, the form of Zen practice, the whole thing is structured to help us really see the impact, see the relationship, see the intimacy, see this oneness. To see that when we make an action, whether it's intentional, whether it's accidental, whether it's done with awareness, or whether it's done with no awareness, that it impacts our environment. And we can say each action that we take impacts this whole cosmos. The whole universe changes as a result of our action. The whole universe is affected by whether we are awake and aware in any particular moment, or whether we're asleep. Whether we're present to this intimacy, to this unification, to this harmony in any given moment, or whether we're focused on ourselves, what we want, what we're doing, to the exclusion of everything else. Zen practice presses this into us over and over and over again. The form is such that it requires us to manifest harmoniously, to dissolve into this practice together, or there's a snag in the flow of the activity, the flow of the form. When we get caught up thinking about what it is that we want to do, or what it is that I think needs to happen next, or worrying about ourselves, or wanting after ourselves, or taking care of just me without thinking about what's going on in the bigger picture, there's a snag, there's a hold-up. As we become more and more familiar with the form, and as we continue through this week, what we'll find, what you'll find, what we all find, is that little bit by little bit, those snags and hooks wear away. As we remember or become familiar with the form, we see that things line up, just one thing after the next. We spend a great deal of our time looking way off into the future. What's going to happen after this meal, or what's going to happen after this day, or what's going to happen after this retreat, or what's going to happen after this training period, or what's going to happen after this year. And our practice is such that it really calls to us to just come back to this moment, what's unfolding in this moment. Witnessing sort of the the action point, the unfolding point of the cosmos. We can't act out there. We have to act and respond and be in this unfolding moment. And our practice encourages us to be there over and over again. In our daily lives, we're always being invited to be present, but a lot of the time we're asleep. A lot of the time we're off in the past or in the future. And this form presses it into our face. There's a sort of high consequence in terms of when we're asleep, when we're not paying attention to this moment as it unfolds, the form zigs and we zag. And it's a wonderful thing because we see, I wasn't paying attention. Everyone that we are practicing with sees and holds us accountable. This is a very important aspect of practicing with a Sangha. Sometimes when we're practicing on our own or just going through our own daily lives, we can become aware of gaps. We can become aware of our absences. But we usually sort of look around and make sure that nobody was looking when they happen, so that we can pretend nothing ever took place. We can just keep going, business as usual. But when we practice together in a Sangha, in an environment like this, the form is laid out to be a mirror, revealing to us and revealing to all those that we practice with just where we're at. Not to be judged, not to be criticized, but just to be honestly clear. This is all that Zhaozu is pointing to in this simple exchange. Just this unfolding activity of the cosmos, moment after moment. Just this is the complete teaching of Zen. Zhaozu doesn't want to get into sutras. He doesn't want to get into history. He doesn't want to get into stories about other ancestors. He points to the most simple and poignant fact about the unfolding of the moment in front of him. Have you had your breakfast? I wonder if it was a young monk for whom this is the most important aspect of monastic life. Breakfast. Have you had your breakfast? Yes. Whew. Okay. Wash your bowl. It's the next thing. This is what time it is now. Fully engage in what's coming up. What's arising in this moment? Just wash your bowl. This case is really wonderful because it, not only because of Zhaozu, but also because of this student, this monk. This monk who asks such a simple, straightforward question. I used to go into interview with Sasaki Roshi many times, and I would ask a question like this and just say, what needs to be done? What do I need to realize? What do I need to do to grasp this teaching? And many times over and over again he would say, only grow up. My sisters, when I was a kid, used to say that all the time too, Grow up! But when Sasaki Roshi said it to me, it had a distinctly different characteristic. It's something that I think is implied in this case, and especially in Wumen's verse, is that our endeavor to find and execute or grasp what it is that we figure needs to be done, this something special that is Zen, is often our greatest obstacle in practice. Growing up is not something that, as a human being, you can sort of actively will yourself to do. I'm going to grow up now. I'm going to do things that will help me grow up. It's like I can't even, to this day, grasp what that would look like. I'm going to grow up. And yet, little bit by little bit, if we simply apply ourselves with awareness to the unfolding activity of this moment, we find that we are maturing. Just taking care of the activity as it arises, the circumstances as they arise, being present with them, accepting them, accepting responsibility in this moment. Wumen says when Zhaozu opens his mouth, he exposes his gallbladder and displays his heart and liver. It's this simple conversation about breakfast. And this is a praise for Zhaozu from Wumen, saying he opens up the teaching. He makes it so open. Just, Zhaozu's walking across the room or walking through the hallway, and he's kind of ambushed by an eager young monk who just asks him a question. Without a moment's pause, he just opens himself completely, opens up the whole treasury of the Dharma just in a moment. There it is. Wash your bowl. And that's half of it. To make that offering. But what's amazing is that the monk who asked the question, the monk who set the stage, was there to receive this, was there to see it. Wumen says, if this monk had been unable to hear clearly, he would have mistaken a bell for a bedpan. You just turn it upside down, it looks like the same thing. And that's what it's saying. We take all of these aspects of our lives, eating, cleaning up after ourselves, cleaning the bathrooms, mowing the lawn, doing all of the tasks of our day-to-day lives, brushing our teeth, having a shower. we look at those things as mundane, just day-to-day stuff, unspiritual, not interesting. But the practice of going to the bathroom or doing the dishes or mowing the lawn is no less the dynamic unfolding of the cosmos, as is some great chanting or some otherwise sort of metaphysical experience. And when we stick our life, when we take the experiences of our moment-to-moment, day-to-day lives and put them into the shoebox of mundane, everyday, uninteresting, non-spiritual, unhelpful, this is what we're doing. We're mistaking this resounding bell, this unfolding, dynamic moment of the cosmos for a bedpan. Wumen's verse says, "The very intention to master clearly, on the contrary, delays realization." And this is what I was talking about just a few minutes ago. Our realization, our awakening, is in this moment. It's this unfolding activity just before us. Giving a talk, listening to a talk, sitting in the zendo, doing walking meditation, going for a hike. This is the place where our realization exists, our awakening manifests. It's not through grasping this idea of Buddhism or practice or enlightenment or spirituality or goodness or God or any of these things that are up out there. Because those things aren't up and out there. They are manifest in this very unfolding moment. Since ancient times, it has been known that light is fire. This we have to remember, that still to this day, it's very true. If we look in the dark of the night out into the woods and we see a light, we find that its source is always some kind of fire, whether that's electrical fire or whether that's a combustion fire. Even the light of the moon is just a reflection of fire in the sun. So when we are looking at all of the things in this vast cosmos, all of the ideas that we have and all of the activities that we see and all of the things that we can do and aspire to, what's their origin? It's nothing other than this dynamic unfolding moment that's happening right in front of us. So we can go chasing after the light in the woods, or we can recognize that its origin is always unfolding in this moment right before us. What are you waiting for? And that's what this last line of Wumen's verse says. The rice has long been cooked. The meal that you're running around looking for has always been ready for you to eat. You don't have to go anywhere fancy to get it. You don't have to set any fancy tables to eat it. The awakening that you're seeking is right in front of you. The realization that you want so badly is just this activity that's right in front of you. A monk said to Zhaozu, I have just entered this monastery. Master, please teach me. Zhaozu asked, have you already finished your breakfast? The monk replied, yes, I have. Zhaozu said, wash your bowl. The monk was awakened.